Hey there, folks. Picture Thesa's small town in Indiana, quiet as a Sunday morning, until 100 motorcycles roar through, shaking every window on Elm Street, all for a girl nobody thought could change anything. This is the story of Ellie Harper, a kid who drew a picture that turned a feared biker gang into her unlikely family. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let me tell you how one sketch flipped a whole town upside down. It all starts in Willow Creek, a speck on the map where the days hum with the usual school bells ringing, sprinklers hissing, folks swapping gossip over diner pie. But in a little house on Elm, Ellie Harper's world was quieter, smaller, trapped inside four walls and a wheelchair. She was 19, supposed to be chasing dreams, college, road trips, maybe a first love, but a truck accident at 15 had taken her legs, left her with a rusted bike in the garage, a cruel reminder of what used to be. Her mom, Sarah, worked triple shifts at the hospital, her hands calloused from lifting Ellie in and out of their beat-up station wagon. College pamphlets piled up on Ellie's desk, unopened, mocking her with dreams she couldn't reach. But in her eyes, man, there was this fire, stubborn, alive, like she was daring the world to keep her down. She didn't want anyone's pity, no way. She wanted out, wanted to feel the wind, wanted to live. Now, Willow Creek had its own kind of thunder, the Iron Reapers, a biker gang that rolled through town like a storm nobody could ignore. Leather jackets, skull tattoos, bikes that growled louder than a bear. Folks locked their doors, pulled their kids close, whispered about drugs and fights. To them, the Reapers were trouble on wheels. But Ellie? She saw something else. From her bedroom window, she'd watched them roar by, catching details nobody bothered to notice. Like how one guy always dropped off a bag of groceries at old Mrs. Callahan's porch, or how another would toss a ball back to kids playing in the street. And then there was Vince, Iron Callahano, relation to Mrs. Callahan, just a coincidencia guy with a beard like steel wool and hands scarred like a road map. He was the Reapers' leader, the kind of man who made shopkeepers sweat just by walking in. But Ellie saw him differently. One day, she caught him stopping to help Mr. Jenkins, this 80-year-old vet with a limp, pick up a dropped bag of apples, acting like it was nothing. That stuck with her. People called them outlaws, but maybe outlaws could still have hearts. Ellie spent her afternoons with a sketchbook, her way of touching a world she couldn't run to. She'd draw open fields, birds flying free, legs that could dance. One hot August day, with the sun pouring through her window and her mom gone at work, she started sketching Vince. Not the tough guy everyone feared, but the man she saw, tired eyes, a weight on his shoulders, maybe a kindness nobody gave him credit for. Her pencil moved fast, her heart pounding like she was breaking some kind of rule. Then the Reapers' bikes rumbled past, shaking the diner across the street, and something snapped in her. Maybe courage isn't about running. She thought maybe it's about moving, period. So she grabbed the sketch, wheeled down her ramp, and rolled across the street to the diner, where the Reapers were laughing over burgers and beer. The place went quiet when Ellie's chair squeaked in. Every eye turned, waitresses froze, coffee cups hung midair. Vince looked up, his gray eyes narrowing, like he was sizing up a threat. Ellie's hands shook as she held out the sketch. I drew this. For you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Vince took the paper, his calloused fingers brushing its edge, and stared at his own face, not the hard-ass biker, but a man with softness in his lines, like she'd seen right through him. His jaw twitched, just a little, and for a second, he didn't look like Iron Callahan. You did this? He asked, his voice low, gravelly, but softer than anyone expected. Ellie nodded, swallowing hard. People don't see you. Not really, but I think you're more than what they say. The other Reapers swapped looks, like, who the hell is this kid? Nobody talked to Vince like that. Nobody handed him kindness without wanting something back. He folded the sketch, tucked it into his jacket like it was gold, and leaned down. What's your name, kid? Ellie, she said, her voice steadier now. He nodded, like her name meant something. Ellie, you just gave me something I ain't had in a long time. The diner stayed quiet, folks watching like they were waiting for the punchline, but Vince just gave her a look, respect, maybe even gratitude, and that was that. Word spreads fast in a town like Willow Creek. By Sunday, the church ladies were whispering, warning Sarah to keep Ellie away from those men. Mrs. Larson, the HOA president with a perm tighter than her grip on the neighborhood, cornered Sarah at the grocery store. You let your daughter near those criminals, you're asking for trouble, she hissed, her voice dripping with that small-town judgment. Ellie overheard it all from the next aisle, her hands tightening on her chair. She didn't flinch, though she remembered Vince's eyes when he took her sketch, like she'd given him back a piece of himself. That wasn't trouble. That was real. But Sarah was scared, her voice shaky that night as she sat across from Ellie. Honey, these guys, they live by their own rules. They're not safe. Ellie looked at her wheelchair, at the walls that caged her, and said, Mom, safe hasn't gotten me anywhere. Vince saw me, not this chair. I can't let that go. Sarah's eyes welled up, but Ellie's resolve was iron. She wasn't backing down. A week later, the Reapers' bikes rolled up to Ellie's house. Curtains twitched up and down Elm Street, neighbors clutching their phones like they were ready to call the cops. Vince stood at her ramp, helmet under his arm, a half grin on his face. Got another drawing for me, kid? Ellie wheeled out, her heart racing. Not today, she admitted, then smiled. You kept the first one, right? He patted his jacket, right over his heart. Damn right, worth more than any medal I ever got. They talked for a while, about nothing and everything. The open road, the way it feels like flying, how Vince was only scared when he stood still. Ellie soaked it in, her world cracking open just a little wider. But not everyone was happy about this. Officer Malone, the town's self-appointed moral compass, pulled up one afternoon, his cruiser blocking Vince's bike. He leaned in close, voice sharp. You think it's cute, hanging around a kid like her? She's got enough problems without your kind sniffing around. Ellie, watching from her porch, felt her chest burn. Before Vince could answer, she rolled forward, her voice cutting through the air. He's my friend, Malone, and I don't give a damn what you think. The officer blinked, caught off guard, and Vince just smirked, muttering, Kid's got more guts than you. Malone stormed off, tossing a warning over his shoulder. You'll regret this, Harper's gonna get hurt. That night, Sarah was a wreck, whispering, Ellie, what are you doing to us? But Ellie felt it. Deep in her bones something big was coming, something nobody else could see. The whispers got louder. At the diner, folks said the Reapers were using Ellie, that she was just a naive kid giving outlaws attention. Mrs. Larson even started a petition to keep the neighborhood safe, her voice shrill at the HOA meeting. Those bikers are a menace, Ellie's just collateral damage. Ellie overheard it while sketching by the diner window, her throat tight, but she didn't say a word. Vince, though? He wasn't having it. He strode into the diner one night, his boots heavy, his eyes like steel. You want to talk about me, fine, he growled, loud enough for every table to hear. But you drag Ellie's name through the mud, and we got a problem. The room froze, Mrs. Larson's coffee cup shaking in her hand. Later, Vince told Ellie what he'd done, and she blinked back tears. Nobody's ever fought for me like that, she whispered. He shrugged, like it was no big deal, but his eyes said otherwise. This wasn't just about a drawing, Anna Marie, it was family. One evening, Vince noticed an unopened envelope on Ellie's lap as they sat on her porch. What's that? He asked. Ellie hesitated, her voice small. College acceptance letter. But it's pointless. I can't get there, not with Mom's car breaking down and her back shot from lifting me. Vince's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing like he was working out a puzzle. Don't say it's pointless, kid, not yet. His voice had an edge, not anger, but something solid, like a promise you could lean on. Ellie didn't know it, but Vince was already moving pieces into place. Behind the scenes, Vince started making calls, quiet, serious ones. Word spread through the Reapers network. Iron's got a kid who needs us. Bikers from all over Ohio, Kentucky, even as far as Michigan started rolling into Willow Creek. They filled motels, camped in fields, their bikes lined up like an army. The town went nuts with rumors, fights, drugs, some kind of biker takeover. Nobody guessed it was all for a girl in a wheelchair chasing a dream. Ellie noticed new faces riding by, big guys with tattoos nodding at her like she was in on something. Patience, kid, Vince would say, his grin hiding something huge. The night before college classes started, Ellie couldn't sleep. She stared at that unopened letter, her heart heavy with doubt. Around midnight, a knock at her window made her jump. It was Vince, standing in the dark, helmet in hand. You ready for tomorrow? He asked, his eyes glinting. For what? She said, confused. Your first day? He replied, calm as ever. Don't worry about the how, just be ready. Ellie wanted to push, to demand answers, but his quiet confidence stopped her. As he walked back to his bike, she heard engines in the distance, more than she'd ever heard before, like a storm waiting to break. She whispered to herself, "God, let this be real." Morning came, and with it, the sound of thunder. At first, it was just a rumble. Then it grew, shaking the whole damn street. Ellie wheeled to her porch, clutching her acceptance letter, and froze. Lined up outside her house were 100 bikers, leather, chrome, tattoos shining in the sun. Vince stood in the center, her sketch still tucked in his jacket. "Told you I'd get you there," he said, grinning like he'd just pulled off the heist of the century. Sarah opened the door, her hands shaking. "Vince, what the hell is this?" she whispered. "It's her ride," he said, steady as a rock. "You've carried her long enough today, we do it." Two bikers, big guys with gentle hands, lifted Ellie's chair into a custom sidecar, strapping it in like it was the most precious cargo they'd ever hauled. Another checked her seatbelt, nodding to her like she was one of them. Ellie's eyes stung as she looked at Sarah, who was torn between fear and awe. "Mom, it's okay," Ellie whispered, and Sarah nodded, tears spilling over. Then the engines roared, 100 strong, and the procession started. Cars pulled over, people stared, some waved, others just gaped. This wasn't trouble, it was a damn parade. Ellie, in the center of it all, felt like she was flying, like she was royalty. The ride stretched for miles, bikes blocking traffic at every turn, clearing a path just for her. When they hit the college campus, students and professors spilled onto the lawn, jaws dropping at the sight of 100 Reapers circling in. The engines cut off in perfect sync, and silence hit like a wave. Vince opened the sidecar, and two bikers lifted Ellie's chair to the ground. He crouched beside her. "This is your road now, kid, ride it proud." Ellie's throat burned, tears blurring the crowd around her, some scared, some moved, all watching her. Then someone clapped. Another joined. Soon, the whole damn campus was cheering, students rushing to shake her hand, professors wiping their eyes. The dean himself stepped forward, voice shaky. "Miss Harper, we're honored to have you." Sarah stood in the crowd, crying openly now, and locked eyes with Vince. "Thank you," she mouthed. He just nodded, like it was nothing. Ellie opened her letter at last. "Congratulations," it read, and those words lit a fire in her chest. Later, in her dorm, she flipped open her sketchbook. On the last page, she drew herself not stuck by a window, but surrounded by bikes, her smile brighter than ever. Willow Creek never stopped whispering. Some called it a stunt, others a miracle. But Ellie learned something that day. Kindness can crack open even the hardest hearts, and courage doesn't need legs to stand tall. Those bikers didn't just give her a ride, they gave her a story nobody could ignore. So, what do you think were the Reapers' trouble, or were they the only ones who saw Ellie for who she really was? Drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button. Share your take, because stories like this, they make us question what we think we know about people, about community, about what's right or wrong. Let's keep this conversation going.